the Substack. Join it. It is free. And if you choose to pay and subscribe that way, there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline, but also you will be able to get ad-free versions of the videos starting after the World Series so that we can devote more time to doing all this stuff. And you get a newsletter each week that tells you everything that we have going on. And also, my producer, David Korn, wrote a great article on Substack last week about the Blue Jays when the Blue Jays eliminated the Yankees, about how Vladimir Guerrero may just be the face of Major League Baseball now. It's a good read. It's a good read. Go check it out. The Substack, that is imtrevormay.com. Very easy to find. Very easy to find. And any way that you choose to participate, I like ye. I like ye. Thank you so much. I also have a couple of corrections from a couple of videos I did recently in my, I believe, a DS preview show, and then also in the 5 turning points video that I just put out. I said that I was perfect in my predictions for the winners so far. That turned out to be a lie. I apologize. So I'm actually 6 for 8. I thought for some reason I had the Dodgers. I've been keeping these running notes to keep myself on top of the predictions I'm making because I'm doing them every round. And for some reason I had the Dodgers written down, but I put the Phillies in the video. So that's wrong. And then the Cubs almost pulled it off. I'll be honest, they almost pulled off the comeback. But honestly, my heart is a little bit more excited about the Brewers being in there. But the other side, I nailed that one. So 6 for 8. We're going to go 6 for 8. And also in that turning points video, I mentioned Aaron Judge hitting the 3-run homer as a turning point. A lot of people had problems with that. But the point I was trying to make was basically the Blue Jays were in the driver's seat of that whole series, so it was hard to figure out where a turning point was. So I would like to amend that turning point to be when Vlad hit his first homer of the series, I believe in the first inning of the first game. That's when it turned towards the Blue Jays. See, that's not as fun, but it didn't fit in the theme as well. So I'm sorry. It probably will happen again at some point. That's on me. I'll be better in the future. Okay, let's go in and let's talk a little bit about what's been going on. I know we're a little bit late here, right? The CS already had its first game last night. Weekends, not great for me. Sundays, I can't really get it. I've spent time with my son all day. There's just a part of me that's like, I can't just do live videos at 9 at night anymore. So we're gonna be doing this preview and this breakdown of a couple things that I noticed from last round, and also getting ready to make predictions for this coming round. We're doing it a day late with 2 games starting. So we're gonna recap the first game first. We gotta do that first so that we can then move on, all right? So this is your Championship Series preview. One day into the Championship Series. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Mariners versus the Toronto Blue Jays. As many of you, all of you, every single one of you is aware, there was quite the marathon where the Mariners were able to pull off the Game 5 W against the Tigers in 15 innings, and they used 3 different starters. They used every single pitcher that they've ever had in their organization, all in one game. Kudos to them. I'm doing a video where I'm going through that thing moment by moment. I'm going to talk about that stuff. So I know a lot of you guys want to hear that. That's, again, a little bit into the future. A lot of little videos that I've been working on behind the scenes. So expect a ton of that stuff to come out in the next couple weeks. That said, that put them in a position to then have to go. So the game ended at 10 p.m. Pacific time on the West Coast, where the Mariners then had to fly across the country to Toronto, have their day off, and then play another game against the Toronto Blue Jays with one pitcher that was on 3 days rest. Now, fortunately, Bryce Miller was on 3 days rest after throwing 50 pitches. So, in my opinion, that's like full rest, because you didn't throw that much. And stop whining. No, he was great, but that's all they had. Producer Henry in the other room texted me, he goes, hey, I don't think this is even a game we can even win. I'm like, this is one of those situations where you have to steal the win. You got to go out and you got to find a way to win it. If you can steal it, bring it back from a rested team when you're not rested, someone steps up in some way, and that someone was Bryce Miller. It didn't look like that way right away. So they did, in my opinion. The Mariners went and they stole game 1 from a very good rested team that on paper lines up very well against them. Now there's still 6 games to play in the series, potentially. So I'm not jumping to any conclusions here, but they did the first thing they needed to do, and it was very, very impressive in the way they did it. So we had Cal Raleigh hit a solo homer, as he tends to do in the Rogers Center, because this is the 9th time he has hit a home run in 14 games played, which is crazy. That guy loves hitting in Canada. He went down and got the patented splitter from Kevin Gossman that hitters were 0 for 16 so far in the playoffs against. Caught it with that torpedo barrel and took it way back. One of those ones where as soon as he hit it, I was like, oh no, uh-oh. It went way, way back over the bullpen and was a huge boost in a game where they were down 1-0. The reason they were down 1-0 is because this gentleman, George Springer, doing a very similar move, hit the first pitch he saw in the game over the fence. Now, this is something that I want to talk about a little bit because there was a collective, oh God, like in Seattle when that happened. That is where I live, if you didn't know. And which I understand. You just played a marathon. You're like, okay, we got to find a way to scrape by this win. And the first pitch your guy throws is a homer. What I saw on that was a missed location, but I saw 97 out of Bryce Miller. So I was like, Bryce looks like he feels good. So that's a good sign. So I was like, that's just what George Springer does. That is just what George Springer does, guys. He hits the first hitch of the game out a lot. He hits a homer to lead off games all the time. To be specific, he's done it 63 times in his career, second all time behind only Ricky Henderson. And he's done it 3 times in the playoffs. To show you how kind of rare that is, this is the first time anyone's done it for the Blue Jays, ever. Actually, I believe it's the first leadoff homer in any count, let alone the first pitch of the game. So the tone was set, but unfortunately for the Blue Jays, their next hit was Santander single in the second, and then nothing for the rest of the game. Bryce Miller settled down, man. He threw 27 pitches, okay? Started to give leadoff homer and then a 12-pitch walk to Lucas. When I said they need to go steal it, this mental exhaustion that every single pitcher on the Mariners has felt for the last, the whole series, frankly, against Detroit, they're like, oh God, here we go again. It's very, very hard not to go, oh God, we're only gonna get 3 out of Bryce Miller. Everyone in that bullpen was like, how are we gonna cover this game? Like, how are we gonna get to the end, let alone win? And then he settled down. I walked away. I went for a walk with my family after dinner. Come back, it was the 5th inning already, and Bryce was going into the inning with like 52 pitches. So he threw 25 in the next 3+ innings, which is exactly what you needed. He looked really good. The splitter got going towards the end, and they were able to do a pass the baton game for the pitchers. And what I mean by that is 6 innings, 7th goes to Spire, 8th goes to Brash, 9th goes to Munoz. No one needs to throw multiples, no ups and downs, no nothing. You're just handing the baton off and feeling good about it. And that's exactly what they needed, and they were able to do it. Just an electric game, electric way, another continuation of everything that's happened to the Mariners, and something that I don't think Blue Jays fans or anyone else really expected. We have another guy, though, we need to discuss because he is becoming quite the folk hero here in Seattle. And that's this man, Jorge Polanco. He was the gentleman who hit the game-winning single off of Tommy Kahnle in the 15th inning of that game, and that's not his only big hit. I believe he has 6 hits, actually, in the playoffs so far. This is every single one of his hits. He had a homer off Tarek Skubal, and then he had another homer off Tarek Skubal, then he had a single off Kyle Finnegan, and also in the ALDS Game 1. It was the only hit he's had that isn't an RBI. And then in Game 5, this might not be all of his hits. There might be a couple more in there. That could be a lie, so just we'll fix it in post. In the 15, he had the 15-inning walk-off single, like I already mentioned, and then he had the 6-inning RBI single to take the 2-1 lead after Cal hit that home run. And then in the 8th, he added some insurance with a 3-1 to take 3-1 with another single hitting someone in, I believe it was Julio that time. So he's become the guy that they can count on. And from going from a huge disappointment that very few Mariners fans wanted to re-sign, they have gotten big production out of Jorge Polanco after a very good year. And having been his teammate for 7 years, I can say there's no one that is more prepared to do this stuff, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. So I'm happy for Jorge, even if this is all that he ends up doing in the playoffs. He's truly having his kind of career hero type moment, and I enjoy it. I just hope he can keep it coming because it's just awesome. So that's how the first game went. Is now 1-0 Mariners. We have another game coming up today. Here's my predictions going in, and this was what my prediction, honestly, my prediction maybe changed one game. I thought it might go to 7, but now I'm choosing to believe it'll go 6. And I have the Seattle Mariners going to their first World Series because I'm biased and I'm a homer, and I want it to happen really badly. Watching the games the other night, you know what, I'm just going to be unapologetic about it because guess what? Predictions are crapshoots. It's just guesses, right? The way I feel, just as someone who played for none of the teams that are in it right now, I think they're all compelling stories for different reasons. The Brewers obviously are exciting. We'll talk about that in a moment. The Blue Jays are. The Blue Jays haven't won in a long time. Everyone outside of the Dodgers are the least fun story out of all of this. Like, one of the other 3 teams would be more fun to have as a World Series champ. But I have the Mariners moving on 4-2. I have Cal Raleigh being their MVP because the Toronto Blue Jays cannot figure out Cal Raleigh. They just can't do it. He's scary on his own, but like, there's something about it, man. There's something about Toronto, which 4 of the 7 games would be there if it ended up going to a 7th game. He just loves it there, and he's up for the big moment, and he wants to win so badly. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's no way the Blue Jays go down quietly. There's no way this is a dominant situation. It's just not the way these teams are set together. I just think this Mariners pitching staff, they're bending and not breaking. Everyone just seems so composed and under control. What blew me away was Castillo and Gilbert. How they were just I was like, this is exactly what you need. So that's what I got. I got the Mariners. Boom. Seattle Mariners move on to the World Series. That is the LA Dodgers versus the team they have not beaten one time this year, the Fighting Milwaukee Brewers. That's true. The Milwaukee Brewers are 6-0 versus the Dodgers in 2025 in the regular season. Full sweep, and they got their first sweep of them at home ever. So that just goes to show you how these teams line up. I think this is as interesting of a matchup as I've ever seen because of the nature of how they're put together. All right, so let's do a little preview on the Dodgers versus Brewers NLCS Game 1, and it will be in Milwaukee because they have the best record, and so they have home field advantage. The first two there, day off 3, day off 2. On the Dodgers side, it's this gentleman, Blake Snell, taking the ball in Game 1. One of the stingiest pitchers when it comes to hits that there is in the league. Pitching against a team that gets a lot of hits and doesn't strike out a lot and plays small ball really well. So this is kind of a immovable object, unstoppable force situation where something has to give. Blake Snell is very hard to string hits together. There are a good number of lefty sticks over there in Milwaukee that aren't going to match up very well with this guy, and he has been nails pretty much for the last 6 or 7 starts. He's been nails. Unhittable type of nails, lock it down type of nails. So this is going to be a major strength. The Dodgers are going to have to rely really heavily on their starting pitcher because on the other side, there's some question marks. For example, starting Game 1 for the Brewers because they had to go into 5 with the Cubs. There's a chance we see Quinn Priester take the start. Didn't really work out last time, but we saw with Matt Boyd flip around and put up some good innings. The second time around, the same thing can happen. It's a different opponent. But right now they're rocking Freddie Peralta, Quinn Priester, and then a bunch of bullpen guys with Mizrowski, and there's gonna be a lot of names tough to say in this breakdown. Aaron Ashby, they're just kind of getting multiple innings out of a bunch of guys. Not having Brandon Woodruff sucks. It would be a big help. But they have Quintana who can eat innings and get a start here and there. He's been a proven playoff starting pitcher as well. So how the starting pitching lines up is going to be interesting. I think with Brandon Woodruff here, this is a much clearer picture, but unfortunately, he is down. Game 2, though, looks like it's going to be Freddie Peralta. They're going to lean very heavily on him. There are some injuries to pay attention to as well. We have Will Smith. He is now back from his hairline fracture in his right hand. He put up a couple hits against the Phillies and looks to be ripe and ready to go, even though he didn't get any rehab in and he didn't do anything. He just went into a playoff game straight up like Starling Marte did in 2022 and just started raking. Tanner Scott is ineligible for the NLCS. I didn't actually know this after undergoing an abscess incision, but could return if the Dodgers advance. That's interesting. That explains why he didn't pitch before. I don't know exactly what that means, but unfortunately, Brandon Woodruff, like I just mentioned, is also out for the NLCS. So they won't have these guys for them, but Tanner Scott hasn't pitched yet. Will Smith is back, and they need him behind the plate, especially with Ben Rortvelt being exclusively a left-handed stick. Now they have more options there. The Dodgers are well positioned to go and put together a good game, but I want to see what the Brewers offense is able to muster against 2 big strikeout guys. Not just one, he's a big strikeout guy, and so is Tyler Glasnow. It's not like Yoshinobu Yamamoto isn't either. So these guys are probably the best 3 you could possibly have for any team starting rotation. It's going to be really interesting to see how they put together and string together hits like they did against the Cubs, who definitely do not have the pitching that the Dodgers have. How do you string hits against these guys? How do you get them out of the game quickly? Because that's what it's going to come down to. If you think you're going to go out and get 11 hits against Blake Snell, you're just not going to. If you try, it's going to probably go worse than it would have had you not tried. So it's going to be about pitch counts going up. That is one thing that has been his weakness in the past, and that is definitely Tyler Glasnow's weakness. Not helping these guys out. They're going to need to put pressure on the pitchers without hoping that they're going to just putting up a 6 spot is a nice, is everything going really well and they're making a lot of mistakes. But if they're dialed in, the least you can do is get them out as soon as humanly possible, especially when the Dodgers are an organization that is willing to pull their starters quickly. And we've seen their bullpen. They have Roki Sasaki right now, and that's just about it. Emmett Sheehan's been good, but Emmett Sheehan might need to start now. We'll have to wait and see. So let's talk about who's hot and who I think is going to play the biggest roles moving forward here. There's Will Smith. He is healthy, thank God. William Contreras, he's hot. He hit 300 in the NLDS with a pair of tie-breaking home runs. I saw them both. Very impressive, one of which was off 100. I'm looking at William Contreras in this series. He has won a World Series. He knows what it's like. So he's got the experience and he's got the temperament. I think he could be a big part of this. Mookie Betts has carried his hot end regular season into the postseason. He's 10 for 26 now. He's hitting 385. They're going to hope for a lot out of Mookie Betts in this series, especially with how they're going to probably really try to handle Ohtani, like the Phillies very much handled Ohtani, and they're going to try to handle Freddie Freeman. Lefties, lefties. Mookie's going to face a lefty. If that's your poison you're going to pick, Mookie needs to then become the guy that is beating them, not just hitting a double or a single here and there, like getting people in being a problem that they have to worry about over those other two guys. I'm looking for that. And October, Kike Hernandez is back. He's 7 for 22, and he's got 4 RBIs and scored 5 runs. So, surprise, Kike's back. So it's going to be interesting. So the things that are super important to me to watch, at least from the Dodgers lineup, how Mookie is handled, how Teoscar is handled, okay? And then what can they get from the back part of the lineup? Where's Kike playing and where is he hitting? And what's Tommy Edman going to be doing with the switch hitting? Where can they create these 3-run homer opportunities? Because the Brewers are going to score runs and they're going to pepper the ball around the field, especially at home. That's what they're going to do. So how do you counteract that? So let's talk about the Brewers a little bit in their lineup. I think William Contreras is going to be a big part of their ability to score runs, but not the whole thing. My person that I think is going to make the biggest impact, and he hit that big kind of bury him, put him away home run the other day, is Bryce Terang. That guy has become a leader in that lineup. He puts together a good at-bat. Almost all the time, that is a theme in this lineup. They put together good at-bats. They grind out at-bats, very similar to the Blue Jays, and I expect that to happen. But I'm paying attention to Bryce Terang being the difference maker, the one that can get people in. Him, Jackson Chourio, and William Contreras taking the extra base, making the play, making sure that every defensive play that should be made is being made to put these guys in positions. It's just, they can't strike out. If we see a lot of strikeouts for the Brewers, that would be a big red light going off in my head. But it's not something they've done all year, and they've handled the Dodgers. So there's no reason to think, they would start losing to him now after they're 6-0 during the season. And on the other side, is Shohei Ohtani going to show up? Are we going to see a Shohei Ohtani at all? Because we didn't see him in the Phillies series at all. We did as a starting pitcher, and I didn't even mention Shohei as a starting pitcher, right, with Yamamoto and them. Shohei's out there as well, another guy who is stingy on hits and doesn't let you pepper him around the field. So, and he can field his position. So we'll see. You can't just Carrick Scooble him and bunt all the time and hope that he's going to make a mistake. Also, another guy who's cold is Andy Paez. At the end of the day, if your center fielder is playing good defense, then you're happy with it. He just really hasn't been putting together good ABs. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So let's give you my predictions for how I think this series is going to go. Very similar to the last one. Who wins? Dodgers versus Brewers? I got 4-2. Milwaukee Brewers move on to the World Series, and we have a Seattle versus Milwaukee market powerhouse head-to-head matchup between two teams that started in Seattle and two teams that have not won the World Series. Wouldn't that be fun? I'll be honest. There's not a lot of outcomes here, I think, that aren't fun. So I think the rest of the playoffs are going to be awesome, no matter what. I'm just going to be a little biased. And there is a part of me that always is going to pray for something that's never happened before to happen, and that's what would happen in this situation. Interesting, though, would the Mariners ever wear their throwback jerseys because they have the same color scheme? I don't know, but it's pretty fun. The Brewers used to be the Seattle Pilots, if you didn't know, for 2 years. Oh, and then the MVP of this series is Bryce Terang, like I mentioned before. He's the one who does the damage. It could be Freddie Peralta if we get 2 nails outings, but I have a feeling this is going to be a position player MVP situation. Definitely not pitchers.